Hey, welcome into the Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside my partner, Mike Evans. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, for downloading, subscribing, and doing all those things that you do. So we appreciate you guys. Mike, how are you, buddy?
Mark, I'm pumped. NFL Wildcard Weekend is here. 18-week appetizer. Now we get down to the main course. I can't wait. So you just want to jump right into the games?
Yeah, now we get down to the nitty-gritty. I cannot wait. It's going to be awesome. Love Wildcard Weekend. So, yeah, let's get started, buddy.
All right, let's just go in order as the games will be played. We'll start with the Saturday games. Houston at home, but an underdog to these L.A. Chargers. At first glance, well, maybe let me start with this. Do you feel like C.J. Stroud regressed this year?
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's any question. You know, more turnovers and all that stuff. But I've said this from day one pretty much. There's something just missing on this football team. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I mean, maybe it's just that they can't protect C.J. Stroud very well, and they haven't been very good at that. But, you know, when you start looking, and obviously they lost Tank Dell, which was a big hit to them, you know, a few weeks ago. But, you know, this has been a season-long thing, inability to protect their quarterback. I mean, Mixon has run it well. They didn't really protect their quarterback all that well last year either, yet he was able to overcome that, still able to make those plays. There has just been something missing. They've had a great pass rush all season long. They've been great at defending the pass all season long. But it was just one of those things that every time I put them on film, it just looked like something wasn't quite right. It just wasn't, like, whatever it is. Like, they just can't make a play at a critical moment. They give up a sack at a critical moment. You know, they turn the ball over in a critical moment. It just was all those little critical things that become huge things and cost you football games. They're in the playoffs. I get it. But I do feel like the Chargers are a better football team.
You know, when you look at the Chargers, we say this all the time. We throw this out. Boy, this coach is really putting his imprint on the team. But has that really been on display this year with what Jim Harbaugh has done with the Chargers? You and I have been talking and following the Chargers for years here in Denver, and we always like to say, hey, Chargers going to Charger. But, man, it like literally overnight, they just took on a different vibe, didn't they?
Toughness.
Yeah.
They took on a toughness vibe. And it is direct correlation to their coach, Jim Harbaugh. And, you know, I say this all the time when it comes to playoff football. And I don't know if you know this, but I have a lot of experience in playoff football.
How many championships?
Just three. One single-handedly that I won, but I don't even like to brag about it. You know, the bottom line for me, Mike, is when you control the line of scrimmage in the National Football League, you win. That never goes in and out of style. That is never one of those things you're like, hey, you know what? Now the trend is, you know, the passing game. Now the trend is running backs. Now the trend is, you know, we're not going to pay the safeties anymore. We're going to play that too high shell. Now the trend is we don't need no stinking fullback. What do we need a fullback for? Let me tell you something that will never go in and out of style, and that's controlling the line of scrimmage. And I absolutely love Jim Harbaugh from day one when he comes in and gets rid of his receivers. Just gone. See you, Keenan Allen. Yeah, you've been you've been great. I mean, unbelievable career. Get the fuck out. Like, I don't want you anymore. Right? And, like, that's Jim Harbaugh. And I'll never forget one of the things he said that was tie on the doorknob for me. Just straight up tie on the doorknob. Honey, don't come in here. I'm watching O-line film, and I cannot be disturbed. When Jim when Jim Harbaugh drafted a right tackle with the 6th overall pick?
Joe Alt.
And John was his father. John played for a long time with the Kansas City Chiefs, but when he drafted Joe Alt, and he goes, no weapons. Offensive linemen are the ultimate weapon. It's the tip of the spear. And I was like, yes. So I tell you what, I love that kind of concept. And, you know, it's funny. You and I have these conversations with our partner, Joel Klatt, all the time. You know, my buddy, my colleague on Fox. But Joel Klatt will be the first to tell you wide receivers are the most overrated position group in all of the National Football League. Like the next time a big-time wide receiver switches teams and they win something, will be the first time that happens. So, like, you look at what's gone down and you look at what they have become. They're 11-6 as a football team, I believe. 11-6 is their record. And I tell you what, they have done it with guys named Ladd McConkey. You know, another, who's their tight end? I loved him when he was in Seattle.
Disley. Will Disley.
Will Disley.
You love Will Disley.
Will Disley is balding, got a dad bod. You know, he's torn his Achilles or his ACL. He had a couple different injuries. Probably can't run a sub 540. He's that dude. Will Disley is that dude that you go to the YMCA to play pickup basketball and you go, I'll guard him. I got him. And then he hangs 45 on you and slams a couple of times. Like, yeah, you know, he's like, how does this balding fat guy have that kind of athleticism? I love him. He's a great player, but they've done it with a bunch of no names. But the way they've done it, and the reason they've done it, is because Jim Harbaugh understands the value of beating people up, controlling line of scrimmage. I really like this Chargers team way more than I've ever liked any Chargers team, because you know they've always been softer than microwave butter.
So what we're going to do for the picks this year in the playoffs? Tip of the cap. You kicked my ass here during the regular season.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second.
Let's circle back to this.
Yeah, just so we know, we know where we stand, because I'm you know me, like I only use an anal thermometer, a rectal thermometer, because I'm a stickler for accuracy.
Yes,
we know that. So when I'm checking my temperature, it's not under the tongue, it's not in the ear, it's right up the old can. I want to know exactly what that temperature is, Mike, because rectal thermometers are the most accurate way to test your temperature. So for you, I want accuracy, again, stickler for accuracy. You were 28-25-1. 28-25-1.
Not horrible.
Yeah, 52%. So that's good. I, on the other hand, was 35-18-1, which is a whopping 65%. So
what can I say? You're my daddy.
Yeah.
But clean slate now. Clean slate for the playoffs.
Playoff slate.
So we'll pick both games, and if we happen to agree, then we'll just move on, and that game will not be at stake. So Chargers are a 3-point favorite on the road to Houston. Who you got?
I am taking the Chargers to go into Houston on Saturday afternoon and win that football game. I like the Texans. I think defensively they're really good, but you know the best part of their game is to the pass rush. I don't think the Chargers allow them to get off the edge, you know, with their guys. So I'm going to go with the Chargers there.
I will agree with you on that one. So that one's not at stake. Let's move on. The other game on Saturday. Here we go. Part 3. Baltimore and Pittsburgh, the rubber match. Back in Baltimore again. Pittsburgh's reeling. They've lost, 4 in a row to close off the season? Yep. Baltimore's a 9.5-point favorite. We'll get to the pick here in a bit, but just we talked about this a little bit earlier in the week. If you're the Steelers, and I was hearing an interview with Arthur Smith yesterday, and I don't know, maybe you heard I got the sense he wants to make the move to Justin Fields, but Mike Tomlin won't let him.
Yeah, you know what? I would make that move simply because the Baltimore Ravens wouldn't have really worked on that very much, and it gives them that run threat at the quarterback, the RPO at the quarterback, all those things, you know. And the Rusties, I mean, let's face it, the Rusties are going to go out and make excuses for Russell Wilson and say, well, he wasn't bad, you know, it's not his fault that everybody dropped footballs and this, that, and the other. No, you're right. It's 100% not his fault that George Pickens is, you know, his hands are made of feet. I mean, that dude was dropping balls like it was his job to drop balls. It was unbelievable. And then, you know, he had Freiermuth down the seam that he threw a really good pass to at the end of that game against Cincinnati. He dropped it. But the 3 games before that, they got beat all 3 of those games by double digits. Russ has not been as good. Russ does what Russ always does, takes a bunch of sacks, trying to hold on to the ball, not throwing it in the middle of the football field. He's regressed back to what I thought he was before he took over for Pittsburgh when they were 4-2. And, you know, I had to eat a little crow and say, hey, I apologize and everything else. And then, you know what, all the apologies that I gave, it turns out that even when I'm wrong, I'm right. Even when I'm wrong, I'm right.
I'm still disappointed at you, by the way, for caving.
Yeah.
Like that.
I mean, he was great for like 3 or 4 games. I had to tip the cap, say he was great. But even in my incorrectness, I was correct. He still sucks. So no, I mean, has he played better? Absolutely, he's played better. There's no question. Do I think the Pittsburgh Steelers can go into Baltimore with Russell Wilson and win? No way. No way. It's still, when you take a sack and he takes multiple, now Fields ain't a whole lot better because Fields will take a bunch of sacks too. But when you take sacks, your odds of scoring on the drive you take a sack on drops below 10%. You just don't score. When you take sacks, it's worse than getting a penalty because at least usually you get the down back. But when you take a sack, man, you lose the down and you lose the yardage. It's almost impossible to overcome that as a football team. And like, they haven't run the ball well. The defense is finally, it's starting to reel. Why? Because I think they had to carry that football team for so many weeks. It's this battle of attrition that happens. I don't think Russ will start, but I think you'll see plenty of Justin Fields. I think he'll get opportunities to run some of that Wildcat stuff, to do some of those things. But ultimately, Mike, right now the Ravens are playing really good. Obviously, their run game with Derrick Henry's been phenomenal. Lamar Jackson's been unbelievable, playing at an MVP level. But it's really their defense that has turned the corner. Their defense has been outstanding. And they point to several weeks ago when they moved Kyle Hamilton back as kind of the free safety in that mode and less at the line of scrimmage. He's still at the line of scrimmage quite a bit and all that stuff. But that's really where they've pointed to. And their defense has been outstanding about the last 5 or 6 weeks. I think it's been the best defense in football the last 6 weeks or so.
Stig, I can't argue with you. If under most circumstances, I look at this game and Baltimore's a clear-cut, obvious choice. However, you do have Lamar and the Ravens' struggles in the playoffs still kind of hanging out there. And I just wonder, do you believe that is a storyline going into this game, or do you think Lamar has moved past that?
No, I think it's a storyline. I don't think there's any question. I mean, we've talked about this, and of course, all the, Lamar stands get on you. They just get so offended. But there's nobody that has anything more to prove. I mean, there's nobody that has more to prove, I should say, than Lamar Jackson come these playoffs.
I agree.
That dude's got a ton to prove. He is 2-4 in his playoff tenure. That's only a 6-game sample size, but he's 2-4. He's completing 57% of his passes. He's got 9 total touchdowns, 9 total turnovers. It's not very good, Mike. At any metric, it is bad. And so there is something on that. And he addressed it this week in the media, and he said, essentially, listen, man, I get too anxious. I do get basically too amped up, and I need to calm down. And so, can you do that? I don't know. I think Pittsburgh, it's funny because Pittsburgh has dominated this matchup over the last decade or so, but they beat them down a couple of weeks ago. I think Baltimore's got a ton of confidence, and I think Baltimore's a lot better football team. So I think Baltimore, I would be shocked if Pittsburgh can hang with Baltimore in this game.
So the pick, you got Baltimore -9.5.
I'm taking the Ravens to cover that 9.5, Mike. I think they win by 17 or so.
Yikes. I'm going to take the Steelers plus the points. I don't think the Steelers win, but there's too much potential there for a backdoor cover, and they know each other so well. And I can't believe that this Pittsburgh team that looked so good earlier in the season has fallen apart so shockingly overnight, virtually, that they're not going to show up on Saturday. I'll take Pittsburgh plus the points.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the games on Sunday. One that we're very interested in here in Denver, the Broncos back in the playoffs for the first time since 2015 when they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and Von Miller. Von now with the Bills. Buffalo and the Broncos in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the opposite of Lamar and what he's done in the playoffs. Josh Allen is completing 70% of his passes. He's got 21 TDs and 4 touchdowns. 21 TDs and 4 interceptions in his lifetime, playoff career. And he's sitting at 5-5. Any other guy that's completed, 70+% of his passes and has, multiple touchdowns versus very limited interceptions. And there's only 2 other guys in the history that have done kind of the numbers that Josh Allen has done in the playoffs. One is Patrick Mahomes, and he's 15-3 in the playoffs. The other is Tom Brady. He's 17-4 in the playoffs. And then you got Josh Allen sitting at 5-5. And this comes down, it's not a Josh Allen equation to me. It's a Sean McDermott equation. I think that Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills panic when the game gets tight. And instead of adhering to what they've done as coaches, what they've done to get them that lead, they dump the game plan in Josh Allen's lap and go win us a football game. And so Sean McDermott talked about the history of the Buffalo Bills and knowing the history and the lack of playoff execution, the lack of a championship and all those things. And I thought he was talking to the media to talk directly to his coaching staff. Because if you go back a couple of years in that game against Kansas City with 13 seconds left, they completely botched the end of that game, right? Kansas City down by a field goal, they kick off. They don't mortar kick it or squib kick it and make the returner return it. They kick it in the end zone and let him down it. So no time comes off the clock. If you squib it or you mortar kick it, meaning you kick it right to the 1 yard line and make them return it, 5 or 6 seconds is coming off that clock, Mike. And so now instead of 13 seconds, you've got 8 seconds. You're not getting down the field for a field goal attempt with 8 seconds, but because you gave them 13, you were able to do that. Last year, they're throttling Kansas City early in that game. Kansas City starts to make a comeback, and what do? They quit running the football, and they go, "Oh, Josh, here, go win it for us." Ooh, and they just completely botched that game, from the middle of the third quarter on. So, I think that was Sean McDermott talking to the Buffalo Bills coaching staff in the front office more than I think it was him talking to his players.
Is there anything the Broncos can do? Let's say impose their will, their talent, their advantage on the Bills to be able to win this game? Or is it just simply the Broncos just have to hope the Bills hand it to them?
Well, defensively, there's a couple of things. One, they've got a guy in Pat Surtain that can play lockdown coverage the entirety of the game. So you can basically eliminate half the field, right? You can push coverage to the opposite side. So you can double team somebody else that Riley Moss is on. You can double team a tight end, whatever, however you decide to make those numbers work. So you've got that ability. The other thing the Broncos do an exceptional job of under Vance Joseph, their defense coordinator, is they blitz the crap out of you. They'll come with, 5-man pressures, with 6-man pressures, with 7-man pressures. They'll come with 4-man simulated pressures, zone dropping. They'll do all that stuff, and they're going to need to do all that stuff. To me, you just empty the chamber. When you walk out of that stadium, you got nothing left, and see what happens. Because Josh Allen has had a history, especially in the red zone, of turning the ball over. Now he's rectified those issues this year. I think he's 40+ touchdowns total, and I think he's got 6 interceptions on the season. If the numbers are right in my head. Right. So can you create some opportunities to get him to turn the ball over? And like I said, with that one shutdown corner, you've got a lot of different opportunities to do a lot of different things from a coverage standpoint. I think here's what you do. You pressure the crap out of him, and you make sure you never give him a tell pre-snap. You're going to have to figure out what we're in post-snap 100% of the time. So there is no confirmation between pre-snap and post-snap. And I think you have to do some of that stuff to really affect any quarterback, especially a quarterback with his kind of knowledge and his kind of what he's been able to do. So I think that's the biggest deal there. Offensively, the Broncos have not run the football very well at all. So it's going to be Bo Nix, and I think one of the things that they're going to have to do really to have some success on the offensive side is it's time. Bo Nix has been an unbelievable rookie, but it is time to unleash him in the run game. I'm talking about quarterback counters. I'm talking about quarterback keepers. I'm talking about quarterback sweeps. I'm talking about use him in the run game because effectively he's your best running back. And he is athletic as all get out. So get him outside the pocket. He's got the big arm. He can make all the throws. But I think they really need to exploit him in the running game, especially down in the red zone. So if they can do those things, do I think they have a chance? Yes, I do.
Sounds like you're asking that they use Bo Nix kind of like, I don't know, like Josh Allen, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The pick, Buffalo, 9.5-point favorite.
I think Buffalo wins this game, Mike. But I'm going to take the Broncos with the points. I think it's going to be closer than people think. I think the Broncos have an outstanding defense. I think they'll be able to slow down Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be a tighter game. I'll take the Broncos plus the 9, but I do think the Bills will win it, but I just don't think they're going to cover the 9.
Yeah, I agree with you. Probably a homer pick on our part, but yeah, we'll take the Broncos, both of us, with the points. Philly and Green Bay. Can you see some similarities between Green Bay and Houston? You said earlier that you just feel like something's off with Houston. Do you kind of get the same kind of feeling with Green Bay? Something's missing.
Yeah. Well, they're missing Christian Watson. He tore his ACL week 18. He is the lift the top of coverage guy. And when you have one lift the top of coverage guy on one side of the field, let's say he's playing the X receiver, so he's on the weak side of the field. You know what that means? That means you're not getting safety rotation weak. That means we can run weak without an extra body in there. So it does open up your run game for Josh Jacobs. Well, now all of a sudden, if you're not afraid of somebody lifting top of coverage that can really run like that, now you got more of an opportunity to pick and choose where you want to rotate your safeties and how you want to add bodies into the run game, how you want to add numbers into the run game. So I think that's a disadvantage for the Green Bay Packers. But I am with you. They're just like, you look at their record, the teams they've lost to 2 to Minnesota, 2 to Detroit, 1 to Philly. Like, they don't beat teams with a winning record.
Right.
They beat teams. I think they're 11 and 0 against teams with losing records, and they're 0 and 6 or something against teams with winning records. If I have, their record right, it's something of that nature.
Right.
So, yeah, there's just something missing there, and they were really big time early in the season about creating turnovers. They were the number 1 team in football about creating turnovers. And the first week when they played in Brazil, they played Philadelphia. They lost the game, but they turned Jalen Hurts over. He had 2 interceptions and 1 fumble. So that's something you've got to rely on. But I just think that Philly, top to bottom, may be the most talented team on both sides of the ball in the National Football League. Now, the one thing about Philly that's interesting to me, Jalen Hurts, clear concussion protocol. He got his first practice on Wednesday, which is great. That's awesome. But when you're coming off of that, there's a couple of different things. The guy hasn't played since week 16.
Middle of December was his last full game.
Yeah.
Middle of December.
Week 16, he got concussion against the Commanders in the second drive of the game, okay? Yep. So he's been out for a while. So rhythm and timing of offense is really important. And, can you have that kind of time off and maintain? It's the kind of the rust versus rest and all that kind of stuff, right? So the one thing about Philly that I think they'll be able to do is I think they'll be able to dominate in the run game, right? They're so physical up front with their offensive line. They can condense packages, right? Get extra tight ends in there, thunder punch people in the mouth, get the running game going with Saquon. And I think they can take pressure off their quarterback. The other thing they can do is create easy completions. The boot keep game, get him out there, the RPO game off the fake handoff to Saquon, dump one off to the tight end, whatever the case is. They run the little drift route to the X receiver. It's an easy completion. It's just one read. And I think, the bubble screens and all that kind of stuff. So, Mike, I think you can get yourself into a rhythm early because you need to after your quarterback's been out that long. So I think that's part of it. The one thing I think that they may end up not doing, if you remember this back a couple of years ago, Nick Sirianni said, hey, man, we start every drive 1st down and 9. Because if we're 4th and 1, we're getting it, right? Because of the tush push, because of the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. When your quarterback's coming off a concussion protocol, there's no place you can protect him in that tush push. You can't. You can protect him when he runs outside, say, get out of bounds, get down, slide, don't take any hits. You can do that stuff, right? Don't fight for extra yards. You can drill that into him. But the tush push is the tush push. Now, it's probably a little bit different in today's football than it was in my day, because we'd come after, we'd try to hit him in the head. That's just the way it was. It's the way the league operated back then. It's probably a little different now, but there's no protecting that guy because, you're submarining. Both teams are submarining, right? And then linebackers are flying over the top, and they're trying to hit him. And if they hit him in the head, so be it. He's a runner, and it doesn't matter. So I think they might eliminate that part of the game plan. They may take that out and just hand it off to Saquon. And you look at their conversion rate, okay, Mike? Best in football. Since 2022, 143 conversions, 143 on the tush push, 3rd down and 2 minus, 4th down and 2 minus. 73% of the time they convert. It's by far the best in football, and it's not close. And now you're taking that weapon, and I happen to think, and I don't know, I don't know this, I haven't confirmed, I haven't talked to anybody, but I think they take it out. I don't think they use it because of the injury risk and putting him in harm's way.
Philly, a 4.5-point favorite. What do you got?
I'm taking Philadelphia. I'll give you the 4.5. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are arguably the best team right now in football.
Love to disagree with you, but I can't. Tampa Bay and Washington. This one on paper looks like it could be fun. We looking at a shootout in this one. It's going to be the highest scoring game of the weekend.
It's great. It feels that way, doesn't it? It feels like two defenses that are just, kind of, I don't really trust them, and two quarterbacks that are hotter than wolf piss. So I'll go to Tampa. Here's what's been amazing about Tampa and the Bake Show. Love you, Bake Show. Hey, Bake Show. I love you. I've had these conversations with his coaches before. Like, he can frustrate you, right? Because he's got zero fear. So he'll throw into a team meeting and not even think twice about it, right? And he can turn the ball over doing that and this, that, and the other. But you watch what Liam Cohen, their offensive coordinator, has done in Tampa, and watch what that offense has evolved into. If you look early in the year, that offense was all about Chris Godwin moving the chains and making plays. Chris Godwin breaks his ankle, and he's out. Mike Evans pulls his hamstring. He's out for like 3 or 4 weeks. Now, they got Mike Evans back, and he got his 1,000 yards, and that was awesome to see that celebration. It had nothing to do with $3 million, Mike. It had everything to do with Mike Evans is this important to us. And I had talked to Baker when I did it.
$3 million factored in there a little bit.
Not to his teammates.
$3 million.
Not to his teammates.
No?
Well, maybe to Mike Evans a little bit, but his teammates, man, they were there. I guarantee you they're so much more excited about tying Jerry Rice's 11 straight seasons with 1,000 yards. He's the first guy to do it from his rookie season on. Jerry did it after his rookie season. But anytime you go in the record books in the National Football League with a guy named Jerry Rice, and let's face it, $3 million to Mike Evans is like, $3,000 to you. Like, Mike Evans makes $30 million a year.
That's more like that. Man, give me 300.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyhow, it doesn't really matter. They were so excited about that record, right? They were that whole team was geeked up about it, from the defense getting a 3-and-out to create another opportunity for the offense to have the ball, and for Baker Mayfield to say, hey, man, I'm getting it to you. They run a little stick route. He throws it. Mike Evans dives for 2 yards, and or it wasn't a first down, but it was like 8 yards. You needed 5 yards on the last play of the game. So it was really, really cool to watch that, and it was great to see the whole sideline. Everybody come out to congratulate him. That was really cool. I loved every second of it. And I just thought it was unbelievable. But getting back to my point with Baker Mayfield, that whole offense had to change. All of a sudden, Cade Otton became their number one weapon for like 5 weeks in a row. The tight end. He became their number one guy. And then all the emergence of Bucky Irvin and what he's been able to do. And he's a guy, when I watched him on film prepping for their game, he's a guy that I don't want to, like, people will take this, people will take this wrong. But he reminded me of Christian McCaffrey in that I think that dude could play slot receiver. I think he can legitimately play slot receiver and be a damn good one. I mean, he motions outside the numbers, he catches the ball, he's impact. So he does everything well. And they morphed that offense into something it wasn't at the beginning of the season. And that to me was really cool. Like, I loved watching that happen. And one thing about Baker, he could play just absolute horseshit football for about a quarter and a half. And at the end of the second quarter or the end of the fourth quarter, when you got to have it, he plays by far his best football. He's just absolutely amazing. When the game is on the line, that dude is all crunch time. And the same can be said for Jaden Daniels, who has brought the Commanders in his rookie year, brought the Commanders back 4 times in the fourth quarter for wins. End of the game drives for wins. Went toe-to-toe in a week 4 matchup with Joe Burrow and out-burrowed Burrow. Like, I mean, this kid has been unbelievable. And having sat with him on several different occasions, one, he has them Oculus goggles, and he puts those Oculus goggles for like 3 I can't breathe. He put those Oculus goggles on for like 3 hours a day, Mike, and he just goes through the plays. And he's throwing, I put them on. They were great. I was like, the pass, and then I threw it, and I completed every one. I could be an NFL quarterback. But he said yesterday, he goes, I don't want to sound cliche, but this is just another game. And I believe him. That guy is so prepped. He works so hard. He's so prepped that he knows my preparation is such that when I get to the game, there's nothing that's going to surprise me or overwhelm me. And he's played that way all season long. This should be a great shootout, Mike.
We've got Tampa Bay, a 3-point favorite, which means it's basically a pick'em game. So who you got?
Taking the Commanders. I'm taking the 3, taking the Commanders. And the Commanders in a straight-up win.
I'll take Tampa. I don't want to end up on Baker's list, so I'll take Tampa.
All right.
Minus the 3. That leaves us with one more game, Monday night, the Rams and Minnesota. Minnesota, thank you. Congratulations, 14-3 season. Wow, what a season. Hey, you're the 5th seed. You get to go on the road to L.A. to play a team that's just a few years removed from winning it all.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say to Minnesota. When you have an opportunity and you're playing in Detroit, don't shit in your helmets. Like, don't take a dump in your helmets. And that's what they did. Man, I'm telling you what, Sam Darnold going back and watching that. Like, I had talked on Breakfast Ball, my morning TV show. When I talked on Breakfast Ball,
promo.
Yeah, FS1, 8 a.m. Eastern. Like, I talked about Jared Goff's ability to eviscerate the blitz. And when I came in the league playing for the Washington Redskins and being a member of the Hogs, we always used to say, like, we would say, hey, man, we beg him to blitz. I remember my O-line coach, Joe Bugle, would always go, we beg him to blitz. I was just like, I was like, what a toolbox. God bless you. Rest in peace, Joe. He was awesome.
How's that? What did you do again? What did you do?
You go, we like to beg him to blitz. Yeah, he's doing all the time.
Why did he do that? What was that for?
That was his thing. I don't know. I can't tell you. So, but, like, he was the number 2 quarterback in the National Football League in facing the blitz, Jared Goff. You know who was number 1? Sam Darnold. And they blitzed Sam Darnold. They pressured Sam Darnold, and he missed probably 3, maybe 4 wide open touchdowns. I mean, wide ass open touchdowns. And that game woulda, coulda, shoulda been a lot different, right? I don't want to go Michael Parsons on him, Man, we almost won that game if it wasn't for the 5 different touchdowns we gave up, right? I mean,
Yeah. Aside from that,
Hey, by the way, Micah Parsons was just talking about on his podcast he's going to win a Super Bowl. Like you almost won against Philadelphia if it wasn't for those 5 touchdowns you gave up. I mean, stop. But anyhow, Sam Darnold just missed shots, and it really kind of tarnished. We're such creatures, we get captured in the moment, right? And it just kind of tarnished some of what he's been able to do, this incredible season he's had. I think he's much more the quarterback that we saw all season long than the one we saw on Sunday night versus Detroit in Week 18. That said, I'm not going to bet against Matthew Stafford. I mean, Matthew Stafford, they took Week 18 off. They're fresh. Matthew Stafford's awesome. I love Cooper Kupp. I love Puka Nacua. I love Kyron Williams. And their defense, young guy, Jared Verse, they've got young guys on the defensive side of the ball that I think are fresh, that I think could flat rush the passer. Listen, man, now this game, and God bless everybody who's out there in L.A., man. My niece just got evacuated from her apartment, and she had to go over the hill to be with my daughters. So they're all out there, and God bless you all, man. I pray for you guys out there. It is devastating to look at the pictures and see what's going on in L.A. This game may get moved to Arizona, and they're going to make a decision. The NFL will on Thursday or Friday, so we'll see exactly what they decide to do, Mike. But I really like the Rams in this game. So the Rams getting the one. I'm going to take the Rams over Minnesota.
All right. I'll take Minnesota. It has the potential, that loss to Detroit, to be kind of a demoralizing. You put in all this great work during the season, and you end up a 5th seed on the road. But I think this Minnesota team's made us some pretty strong stuff, and I will trust them to bounce back. I'll take Minnesota minus the 1.
Okay, so here's where we're different. I've got Ravens. You've got Steelers.
Yep.
All right. We both have the Broncos. We both have the Chargers.
We both have Philly.
Oh, we both have Philly. I've got Washington. You've got Tampa. And I've got Rams, and you've got Minnie.
Yep.
All right.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.
Hey, man, enjoy Wildcard Weekend. For everybody involved in the Sink Truth podcast, I am Mark Schlereth. He is Mike Evans. Guys, thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Please share it with everybody. Please subscribe. We appreciate you guys growing like a weed still, so we thank you for that. And for everybody involved in the Sink Truth podcast, guys, have a blessed weekend. Enjoy the games. Hey, L.A., man, we're thinking about you. We're praying for you right now, so be safe out there. For Mike, I am Mark. Take care.